look at the big air. Oh, that's Josh running wide. Look how close they are. And away they go. The two Subarus get away fairly evenly. Kieran tries to go in wide. Oh, Tom's hit Kieran. But Josh goes back on the inside. Gary goes wide. Mike goes up the inside of Gary. Oh, there's a bit of a tap there. Oh, there's Craig has pushed Sam into the wall. Josh Hardy wins his second ever win and the second win of the day. Chris doing more rallycross in the BMW than actual touring car racing, and it's the first win for Mark Nicol in the Renault Megane. Joe's definitely going to get it. A fantastic win for Heafy on his debut event, his first ever win in the Nissan GTR, unless Kieran can make a last minute dive. And he does, and Mark Nicol is 6th, which means he's the independent champion for season 2. Craig Keller in the Nissan GTR is going to be a win for Craig. Craig Keller is going to take the win in this race. Craig Keller is your season 2 FWTC champion. As always, for Season 3, the reverse grid for Race 3 is drawn at random between the positions 6 and 16, and number 14 was drawn out randomly, which promoted Luke Knox onto the front row of the grid in his BMW M4. Next to him is Harry Cook in the BMW M4 for DC Motorsports, and on road 2 we've got Conor Hewlett in the Subaru WRX next to Craig Keller in the first of the Elliott Racing Nissan GTRs. Race 3 is Gary Black in the Renault Megane next to Tom Foster in the first of the K-Tech Racing Ford Mustangs. Row 4 is Rob Pellet in the Elliott Racing Nissan GTR next to Mark Nicol in the K&N Racing Nissan GTR. Row 5 is the second of the K-Tech Racing Ford Mustangs of Kieran Thomas and Joe Burrows in his Hyundai Genesis. Row 6 is Alan Stretton in the Subaru WRX next to Josh Hardy in the Renault Megane. Row 7 is the second of the DC Motorsports BMW M4s of Darren Parker and the second Hyundai Genesis of Stephen Heath. Another back row of the grid is Ben Gow in the Ford Mustang next to Mike Kuipers in his K&N Racing Nissan GTR. Okay, here we go then. The final race of the day here at Lago Maggiore. Luke Knox is on the front row of the grid next to Harry Cook. Neither of them have yet to have a win, so maybe a first for those, but it's a fairly even start for everyone. Conor Hewlett gets a pretty good start as well, and Harry on the inside of Connor as they go around the second bend. The two Elliott Racing Nissan GTRs have got a fairly decent start as well. Everyone else evenly around the first few corners, and that's Alan Stretton. A little bit of a tap there, but I think someone else is involved. Gary drops down a little bit. So there's Harry Cook has dropped off behind Connor, and Rob Pellet here, who's moved up fairly quickly through the ranks already in this race and actually goes very, very wide and on the grass. So that's slowing Rob down. And they all storm into the next few corners, and that looks like someone's hit the wall there. I'm not sure who that was, but most definitely going to slow them down. So that's Josh who's dropped down. So Josh has had a nightmare start as well. On board with Gale, and look how everyone runs a bit wide, both Alan and one of the Elliott Racings, that was Craig actually. So Craig has dropped down. So interesting how different it's been for Rob and Craig in the two Nissans when they both got a very, very good start. And Alan goes slightly wide in the Subaru. It promotes Ben up to 9th now. Onto lap 2. The two Ford Mustangs here looking fairly strong, and maybe get some good results, which is well needed after Fuji. So Luke Knox is leading by a fair distance. He's got a good clean start and he's managed to get away after the first lap, away from all the chaos further down, and that's one of the Mustangs going wide for K-Tech, and back onto the pack it goes, and whoa, it's looking a little bit shaky here. Let's go on board with Alan and watch this real close pack racing ahead of him. It seems to disperse a little bit, but still very, very close. Everyone's still bumper to bumper, trying to sort themselves out. And that's Mark there. Bit of contact, and that's Mark into the wall. And that's going to push him down a little bit, but he continues on and he doesn't suffer too much. He's really kicking off here. So Connor behind Tom. Whoa! Connor nearly pushes Tom into the gravel, and actually Tom and Joe Burrows go both into the gravel, get themselves sorted, and that's Alan Stretton taking advantage on the outside there. That's a fantastic move. So Alan in between Joe and Tom now. That's Mark hitting the wall again. So Mark will drop down, and he's actually dropped down to the point where both K&N Racing are at the back, near enough. So this is going to hurt them. On board with Gary. And Ben Gale is struggling now. Whoa! That's in the rear view mirror. Ben is tank slapping, and he drops down behind Mark and Darren Parker, who is yet to work his way out the grid. And the two Elite Racing Nissans are also struggling, and that's that's Tom, Alan Stretton, Joe Burrows and Stephen Heath all getting together here. So even on lap 3, it is still very, very clustered together. By now normally things would really have settled, but it's still working out to be very, very close. So Rob Pellett, who was actually up nearly in about 4th or 5th position, has dropped down to 12th behind Mark Nichol, just in front of Ben Gale. Can he work his way back up? There's Craig. Oh, Craig again. So up and down all the time for these two. Oh, that's Harry Cook, and I think, yeah, it's Harry there. We can have a little look, and I think it's Harry and Mark. So we'll have another little look at what happened there, because that certainly did look quite aggressive. Two of them going into the wall there. Let's have a look at this incident then, as we watch Mark going through the S's. Oh, he's caught the grass and he's gone very wide, back on the grass again, and straight into Darren, and takes the two of them out into the wall. Big contact into the wall that slows them both down near to the back of the pack there. On board with Mark. As you can see, the two Elite Nissans, and I think he gets a bit caught up with it all. And there's the contact. Darren goes into the wall, as does Mark. So Rob is behind the K-Tech Mustang of Tom, who is behind Joe, Alan and Stephen. So the two HB Motorsports are mid-pack here, and again could score some fairly decent points if the two of them stay together, as both K&N and DC Motorsports, K&N and Elite Racing seem to be struggling here on the third race. It's just starting to settle a little now, and that's Gary Black going quite wide there, and he manages to get himself back on track. Rob Pellett on the back end of Tom now, who is right next to Joe. There was a bit of a touch, and that pushes Joe wide, and Rob takes advantage of it, goes on the inside, nearly gets past the K-Tech Racing Mustang, but settles for in between the two. And Joe already beginning to try and make up that position. So Harry Cook is now behind Kieran, who has really made some real progress up in this race. Is catching Luke Knox, who continues to lead this race, but the gap is diminishing as Kieran is proving to be very, very quick in this last race. And you can see that gap is just disappearing each corner. Harry is staying on the back of it as well in the podium position, and then this battle here is still continuing on. So Joe on the back end of Tom here with Alan and Stephen. This has spread out a little bit. It was a lot closer, but no doubt it will continue to be close. Rob again very, very close behind Joe. On to lap 5. Further down, that's Josh, who's trying to make up positions after struggling in the first half of this race. Darren still at the back, having a tough time too. And Ben Gale is down here with the rest of them. Then there's Connor. So Connor, something must have happened to Connor, because Connor was right up at the front of the grid for this race, and so this is going to hurt his independence points, as Josh has scored high here so far, and it's really going to close it up between Connor, Gary and Josh come round 4 at Dragon Trail. So look at the lead now, and as we said, this gap has just disappeared between Kieran and Luke. Oh, a bit of a tap there. So the fight is on for the lead of this race, and this could be interesting to watch. Kieran has yet to have a win in the Mustang, and Luke has obviously yet to take his first win, and this is actually his first event, so to take a win on his debut would be pretty decent. It's been done before by Stephen Heath back in season 2 in his Subaru, but still looking good here for Luke. But at the moment Kieran is very, very racy and is actually on the inside of him. I think he's got the move. He's on the wrong side of the next one, but actually Luke struggles to get the car going and settles for second as Harry Cook is catching up as well. So Harry is not too far behind these two and could very quickly be pushing for second himself, and even potentially taking a punt at Kieran for the win as well, as Harry himself has yet to take a win. He's been very close a few times, but is really showing the consistency in the BMW. Further down then, and things are still going on here between Joe Burrows, Tom, Alan Stretton with Stephen just ahead as well, with Rob at the back of it. Gary Black is catching a little bit behind Rob as well. You just see Rob always seems to run slightly wide there, just touches the grass. If he's not careful, it could spin him out. So further down, Josh is down in 10th, trying to make up positions. Ben is 11th, Mike is 12th, so he could get a couple more points here. But as we've said before, the hard tyres are really hurting Mike Kuipers in the Nissan, so he is the next person to have to get used to those tyres. Even further down is Craig, Connor, Darren Parker and Mark, who is really struggling at this race. Look at this, the lead of the race has changed between Kieran, Luke and Harry, and it's back into the hands of Luke again, with Harry and Kieran now fighting for second. So it's a three-way tussle for this race. So again, something's happened to Kieran. We didn't quite see it, unfortunately, but Harry is in the running for the lead now. So if he can keep Kieran at bay, he can then push on for Luke to see if he can take his first win. Meanwhile, Luke will try and keep the two behind him, and all the time that Harry has put the pressure on Kieran, Luke can gap again and make himself more comfortable in that lead. Further down, it looks like this is slightly bunching up. Stephen Heath is catching up at the back of them as well. So there's Alan, Joe, Tom and Rob, and Gary as well. So looks like this is getting a little bit messy here. Tom on the back of Joe is starting to get really wiggly. We're on lap 7, and that is Rob. Look at that move, that was fantastic from Rob. Things are getting interesting in this mid-pack. So Tom on the inside, Rob on the outside. Gary is now on the inside of Rob, so Gary's got an opportunity here. Rob runs wide onto the grass. As I said, he could be dangerous around those S-bends. Very twisty, turny circuit as they come round the final bend here onto lap 8. It's still Rob in 8th, Gary in 9th, with Tom, Joe ahead, and Alan, who seems to be a bit comfortable further up in 5th. And they all run a little bit wide, so it's going to slow them down. There's Rob, gets a tap on Tom, and actually Rob gets ahead of Tom now, so Tom has dropped another position on board with Gary again. Gary runs a little wide and nearly loses it. That's slow on the exit, unfortunately, so he's going to drop off from the back of this pack a little bit. But that fight is still raging on, and Stephen Heath has managed to catch up to the front running pack here, so it's still between Kieran, Luke and Harry, and Stephen is now on the back of both Harry and Luke with the two BMWs, and it could be even more interesting. So Kieran is leading now, Harry is second, Luke has dropped down to third and could be under pressure from Stephen in 4th. So Luke struggling to keep up, but he's put up a good fight again in his debut season, debut event. And that's Stephen Heath, who's gone wide, very, very wide, onto lap 9. And look at this, Alan Stratton potentially wanting a piece of this as well. So he is catching as these four are racing up ahead. Very interesting how they all just seem to catch up quite quickly. Oh, and Alan slightly runs wide there. But very, very quickly, this two-way has turned into a three-way, to a four-way, to a five-way, nearly to a six-way. So this is still going on with Gary at the back, and look at that, Josh Hardy has caught up and is now having a piece of this. So we've got two really good battles going on, and it's a three-way as they go into the next corner between Josh, Tom and Rob. Oh, fantastic racing. They all managed to keep themselves on the track, and Josh goes ahead of both Tom and Rob. So Josh really, really picking up the places here. And Josh has shown his real strengths here at Lago in that Renault. It is his third season in the car, so He has got the most experience out of all of the cars in the entire field. Gary still on the back of this. Ben Gale still down okay in 11th, Darren in 12th. Mike dropped down to 13th. Craig and Connor having a bit of a fight here for 14th and 15th. And a mark at the back still, unfortunately. So this is still the fight for the lead. Kieran's still leading, Harry's second, Luke is third, and Stephen Heath is really put the pressure on Luke. Alan's just on the back of it. He's not quite close enough to cause too much of a problem for Stephen just yet. There's an interesting corner there from Alan, and so Alan and Luke are now battling it out for 4th and 5th as Stephen Heath goes up to 3rd. Luke is just dropping off a little bit more here, and there is Josh. As we can see, this pack here still going on. Gary always running wide there, a very, very different interpretation of the corner to the rest of them. Tom and Rob still having a tussle for 8th and 9th. Gary taking an incredible shortcut there just to keep up, looks like. I wouldn't be surprised if the stewards look at that, but it's obviously inevitably giving him a great run on the back of Tom here. Back up the front then. So Alan's dropped off slightly, and it's now just a three-way between Kieran, Heathy and Harry. And the laps are running out as we come to the end of lap 10. Just a few more corners to go, and they go on to the final lap of lap 11. So Kieran is just holding on to this lead. And Harry, both Harry and Stephen could be pushing, and even Noxie, Luke Knox is called back up to them as they fight it out, and they've slowed themselves down with Alan on the back of it too. So Alan's back up there for a piece of the action. Yeah, at the moment it's Kieran, but he could call it because anything can happen. And it looks like Kieran's going to have to work for this win if he's going to take it. But Harry, most definitely really wanting a win. This is the closest he's ever got. Don't forget, in season 2 Harry was leading the Bathurst night race, race 1 or race 2, I can't remember, but briefly leading, and unfortunately the two Renaults of Parker Racing were in the end overtaking to take the wins. But yes, it was race 1. So it's dropped off a little bit now. It's just Kieran and Harry, as Stephen, Luke and Alan all drop off a little bit again. Oh, contact there from Alan, and that pushes Noxie into a further position, but he's unsettled him. So, and I think if you see there's Josh who's involved as well. There is Josh in 6th, but he could get another position as they come round the final few bends. Then Kieran is still leading, Harry is close, but it doesn't look like he's close enough. It was a good battle for the lead. Harry put up a good fight late into this race, but it's not quite to be just yet for Harry, as Kieran takes the first win for the Mustang. Harry is 2nd, Heathy is 3rd, Luke Knox is 4th, Josh is 5th. So Josh gets ahead of Alan. Joe is 7th, Tom was 8th, Gary was 9th, Rob down to 10th in the end. Darren gets ahead of Ben Gale in 12th, so Darren picks up another point there. Mike in 13th, a disappointing event for Mike. He'll come away disappointed. Craig of 14th ahead of Connor, so 2 disappointing positions there. Mark finishes at the back. Kieran takes the win then, just ahead of Harry. Stephen is 3rd, with Luke 4th, Josh is in 5th, Alan is 6th, Joe was 7th, Tom was 8th, Gary 9th, Rob 10th, Darren 11th, Ben 12th, Mike 13th, Craig was 14th, Connor 15th, and Mark finished at the back. What this means then for the title, Stephen continues to lead with 111, but the lead is quite substantial now going into round 4, so Stephen will be on the hard tyres. In second, Rob 99 points, just 1 point ahead of Mike, so Rob continuing to make a real dash for the title lead. In 4th, we have Darren, who's jumped up a position, so on 90 now. Craig drops down a position to 5th with 88, and in 6th we have Josh, who jumps up a position with 86. The rest follow on from there after today's results, and in the teams, Elite Racing are still leading 225, and KNN are second 217. HB continue in 3rd, 207 points, with DC 199 and KTEC 191, so it's quite close between all of those down the back 3rd, 4th and 5th. In the independents, Gary continues to lead, but is only 4 points now ahead of Josh Hardy, who jumps up to 2nd with 139. So Josh has really made a big dent in the independents. Connor drops down to 3rd, 135, so only 4 points behind Josh. So that is becoming a very interesting 3-way race. Tom Wright still doesn't score, of course, but continues in 4th with 80, and then the rest follow on from there with the newcomers continuing to score and making up positions. Thank you very much for joining us from round 3 at Lago Maggiore here in Italy. We will join you again in a week's time for round 4 at Dragon Trail, which will be the second time for the tourists to visit there. So we'll see you then. Thank you very much.